Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now, or welcome to. It's me, Isabel, here with my wrap up. So, I was gonna do a highs and lows, but then I was like, you read 11 books in June, and like 6 manga. Maybe just talk about all 11 books, because I felt like picking out lows and highs and surprises was just like, whatever. June was my slump. Obviously, I read about a third. Half, like without manga, I read about half of what I normally read, I would say. I'm fine. I'm fine. My saving grace was some digital mangas, but that'll be in my manga wrap up / manga log for the last 3 months very, very soon. This month, you'll get it. But yeah, so I had a very busy June. As you saw if you've watched my vlogs. I feel like I have not been home. I've not had my normal routines. Like, I am on the struggle bus for reading right now. Maybe not in July. July is already setting a precedent of a lot of reading. If you're on my Goodreads, you know. But yeah, or Instagram, because I'm like well ahead of the game right now, which is banana pants as well. Listen, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to try and roll with it and keep the momentum going, because I don't like how little I read in June. Because like for me, reading is such a mental health thing for me, and it's a way that I just like know I'm keeping my sanity. I read a total of 17 books for 4,417 pages. My average rating was a 4.18. I listened to 13 hours of audiobook. This is also way down, like way down. For me, like I read 6 books from KU, 1 library book, I had 1 reread. My age group demographics were 15 adult titles and 2 YA. Format wise, it was 8 ebooks, 3 audiobooks, again, way down, 6 manga. That's it. That's what I read. Like, it was not a ton of stuff. So let's dive in to all the books I read. In just the order I read them, I didn't put them in any particular order because I was like, well, it's not that much. But yeah, normally this would not be all the books I read, because normally it's too many books to talk about, in my opinion. And I don't want to be here for 2 hours. First up, I read Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding by Cinzia C. Higgins. I really enjoyed this. I wanted to make sure I read this just because it was Pride Month. And I wanted to read more of my queer TBR that I have just been sitting on, but I didn't, because the mood reading is very strong right now, and I'm just really taking the journey wherever it takes me and trying not to fight it too hard, because it is not worth it. I don't want to slump, you know? Like, I just don't want to slump. That's the big key here. But I enjoyed this pretty well. I gave it a 4 out of 5, or 6 for a favorite. I think it was a little short in some ways, and I did struggle with some of the setup for this, because it's based around a reality TV show in which you have to convince your family that you two are getting married, and you plan a wedding in like 6 weeks or some shit. Like, it's a really short time period. So you have to plan the wedding really quickly, and your family has to be involved in it, and like you win money at the end basically, or you can get married. It was cute. I think it worked pretty well for the most part. I do think it was worth the hype. I've heard about it for sure. Like, it's very much worth the hype book. But yeah, it was just really fun and felt like a cute, fun, sapphic romance. I definitely just am happy I read it. I've read other books by her and I've liked them more, but I still also super enjoyed this for the most part. Then I read Heart Haunt Havoc by Freydis Moon, and I'm so happy I finally read this dang book. I'm giving this like a 4.5. I had a couple issues. I listened to the audiobook, which is why I got knocked down a little bit. I had issues in the audio for differentiating on the narrators, which, I also kind of had that issue a little bit with Devon and Chris, which is also part of why it was a 4 and not like a 4.5 or a 5. So I felt like the narrators were hard to differentiate between our 2 characters in both these books. Heart Haunt Havoc for me though was like the perfect, just like fade to black, closed door-ish, like sliver of door open romance. I think this was written really, really well. I think it just was a fun read. It was a great setup. I'm curious to see how the rest of the series goes. It's one of those ones that I think if you saw it around and you didn't pick it up and you've thought about it, I would pick it up. If you are open to like a romance with some horror elements, this is the book for you. Then I listened to Dare You to Hate Me by B. Celeste. I picked this up because it was an arc I had for a while that I hadn't read, and I was surprised by this as well, because this is well, I read it for a vlog where I read college sports books and new adults. This surprised me because I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I'm generally not a huge new adult fan lately. I'm further and further away from that age group, so sometimes it's just hard to connect with it. But I thought this was really fun because it had a really strong found family element that worked really well for me. and I found very enjoyable overall. I liked that they were friends as kids. They lost connection with each other and then were magically reunited as adults in college, and how that played out and worked out for them. And it just was really, really cute that when he found her, like his football family like surrounded her and like wanted to protect her as well. It just was really, really cute. Very fun, very sweet romance. Not sweet as in like not explicit, just like sweet as in sweet. Then I reread Wicked Beauty by Katie Robert, which I'm not going to talk too much about because I do have a whole podcast episode on chapter 3 about this. This is the third book in the Wicked Villains in Dark Olympus series, and I really, really liked this one. I think it was really fun. This is the one where we get the call out to Dark Olympus about Hercules, so that was a fun time, I thought, and really overall a very enjoyable read. I think this was one of those ones where like it might be one of my favorites in the series. I really liked the game element in this, and I love a good game element in a book, and I felt like this was pretty well done. So that stood out to me. Then we have The Toss-Up by Alyssa Martin, which I gave a 3.5. This was one that I was commissioned for, which is why I did the new adult reading vlog. And I really enjoyed this for the most part. I think this is a really strong debut. So that 3.5 for me is mostly that I felt like some of the writing was a little clunky and heavy. I think it just needed a little bit more of an edit, like nothing major, and it easily could be a 4-star. I'm excited to see what else she writes. This is a body swap book in which our football player and a gymnast swap bodies, and I thought that was a really interesting swap. I haven't really read a lot of body swap romances, so I think this was just really refreshing and different. Again, I had a fun time with it. I think it was really fun. The author is very blatant about the fact that this is not a commentary on people who are trans, which I think is important here because this is something that like some people could try and turn into a thing. And it's not a thing here. I think it was really fun. I think it was really fun also because our Knox, the hero, experiences things like a period for the first time. And I think a lot of people could benefit from that experience when it comes down to it. I also think that it's really interesting for someone who's tall to experience being much shorter, etc., things like that. Like, I just think there's a lot of like things to be learned from other people's lived experiences, right? So yeah, I really liked that. Then I read Lines by Anna B. Doe. I keep messing up her name. This I gave 3 stars. This is a closed door high school romance, which is fine because it's high school set. This is a hockey romance. He's a bully to her kind of and mean to her, and then like it turns into this romance. I needed a little more here. I wanted her to end up with a new bad boy in town, and she did not. So I was just immediately not into it. But the Bad Boys book is book 2, and I'm like half tempted to read it at some point. I'm not sure. But yeah, she basically has been bullied by him and his friends her whole life. They used to be friends as kids, and then it just turned into this bullying thing. And he's secretly just been in love with her the whole time, which was kind of weird. I don't know. I don't love that dynamic happening, right? And I think I just struggled with the fact that like some of it felt like the right age demographic for the book, and then some of it felt like it was too old. Does that make sense? Like, some of their actions didn't quite match for the age group. But if you want a cute or closed door, slightly angsty, high school set sports romance, this could be for you. For sure. Then I read Holdout by Jacqueline Snow. This is part of like the Moo You spinoff series through Serena Bowen, I believe. I've not read all these books, so I don't know. I picked this up specifically because it has like kind of my book nip in it. When there's mistaken identity, I love a mistaken identity. She is the sister of a teammate of his on the hockey team, and he is the rising star on the hockey team, and she kind of has no interest in any of that to an extent, and she's just trying to like make her way on her own. Her and her brother are orphaned. Their parents died when they were in like, he was starting college, I think, and she was in high school, and he's just been trying to take care of her and get them through things and on to life, you know? And our rising star also has had his struggles. So they both are on scholarships and trying to keep those scholarships. He needs a roommate because his roommate bailed. And she answers the request, doesn't know it's him because he used a different, like his middle name or something. And her name is her name Ryan? I think so. I think her name's also Ryan. Okay, so yeah, she's like a name that could be a boy name. And he thinks it's a boy. And then, oh no, turns out it's her. And then, oh no, turns out her brother is like a senior on the hockey team. So that just had a really fun dynamic. They were very funny together, I think, and very goofy. I enjoyed their banter together. I enjoyed how the relationship developed and how much they both came to like care about each other and help. Like, he's kind of introverted. She kind of helped him come out of his shell a little bit and feel more comfortable around the team, hanging out with them. This was just fun. Like, overall, a very fun time. I gave it 4 stars. I would read more from this author, like in a heartbeat, no questions asked. I think she did this really, really well. It was also a pretty quick read, which was nice. I've been struggling a lot because some hockey books seem to only be like 500 plus pages, and I don't always want a 500 plus page read, you know? All right, next I read Love Theoretically. I did get an arc of this from Libro FM, full disclosure, but that doesn't affect my reading. We know this. I don't care, but I was provided an arc through the Libro FM audio program, which is really awesome perk that I get as a creator, and I love it. And this surprised me. I give it 4.5. I think this might be my favorite Ali Hazelwood to date. Listen, I understand. There are things about this that just don't work if you know anything about these things, and I don't know anything about these things. Like, I love science communicators, and I love hearing science news. Do I understand anything about physics? Absolutely not. I was watching a physicist explain the big thing that just came out in physics this week, and I was like, man, I wish I understood this better. Physics was not my strong suit in school. Like, I was in AP Sciences, and physics and I were like not tight, you know, like we were not buds. So I just really enjoyed this overall. I think this had a fun setup. I think it had a great like culmination, and it had that Ali Hazelwood writing that I personally really enjoy. So if you've liked her other books, and maybe you didn't like the novellas like me, I have not read Love on the Brain yet, but if you like Love Hypothesis, I think you will like this. There's also an Olive and Adam cameo in this that was so cute. So cute. Anyways, I really enjoyed this one. I think this was fun. I do think there's gonna be, like I said, I've read some of the people who didn't like it and like were more mixed on it, and I don't disagree with their critiques. I just had a blast personally, so I'm here for it at the end of the day. Then I finally read That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human. It came in from my library, and I was so happy because I was not paying $10 for this book. As excited as I was, because I'm picking up a physical at Stimulit from Kimberly. So I was like, okay, we're not paying for this book digitally because I'm going to get a physical. If I don't get it from the library before that, I'll read it physically. Y'all, this was adorable. I think this paid off perfectly for the third book in this series. We have a character introduced that I'm obsessed with. I'm hoping it's her own book. I hope so. I really hope so. I don't want to say much about book 3 though, because it's a character I don't know if I expected it to be this character. I'm not like on Kimberly's Patreon or anything, so I know she shared some other places. I just kind of don't look. So I didn't know who this character was going to be, and when I found out and started the book, I was so freaking excited. I loved this. So she basically is stuck in a tower by another dragon, and another dragon shows up and saves her and realizes she's his mate. And we go from there. They go on quite the adventure and earn a lot of trust, and a lot of things happen, and it was so fun. This was absolutely just a blast. I had so much fun reading it. I didn't want to put it down. Like, I was just happy as could be to read this, you know? Like, it was one of those reads where I was just like, oh, this is so fun. Why is it over? So it was like 5-star for me. If you've liked the other ones, you're gonna like this one. I think this one pays off really, really well. I do think there's a little more humor in this one as well, which I enjoyed immensely. Then I read Patience and Sarah by Isabel Miller. There's a live show for this one if you're curious. It's long. We went off topic and it's long, but it may be long and off topic at some points. This was an interesting, here it is. This is my cover of it. I own the like unoriginal printing. This is the first sapphic historical to be published. Isabel Miller was like hand selling this on street corners in New York City. It's really interesting, the history of this book. Do I think anyone should read this? Probably not. Probably not. I'm just gonna say probably not. I did read it. I did finish it. It was awful. There's like weird incestuous things in this book. There is manipulation. There is just a lot of just weirdness. Heavy boobs. A lot of heavy boobs were discussed. And I was just like, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable. So if you want to read like an original, like very early lesbian classic romance, you could pick up this book. But you know, like also maybe just watch the live and watch us talk about it, because it was a mess overall. But again, it's like that thing where like viewing it in the context of the history, I'm like, this is really interesting, but I didn't like it at all. I honestly might drop it to a 1 star. Fingers crossed August's pick is better. Fingers freaking crossed, y'all. All right, and then the last book I read was Puck Shy by Tegan Hunter. This has started my July marathon that is happening. So Puck Shy is book 1 in the Carolina comments. I gave this 5 stars as well. And honestly, this is where it started this month. You know, this is where July's reading has started, because I read Puck Shy over like 2 days and was just like, well, I read, you know, the last 2 books in the series first, and now I'm back to book 1, and I'm actually up to book 4 now. Yeah, so I read Puck Shy. This is book 1. This follows Harper and Colin Wright, a star hockey player. He is broke down in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, driving home in his shitty Land Cruiser that he has and has had forever. And Harper is driving in our little Honda and almost runs him over in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night. Lo and behold, she does pick him up. She lets him get in the car with her, and he drives her and him back to the Carolinas. I think they're in Charlotte, actually. I'm not sure. Honestly, I never paid attention to what city they're in. I need to verify later. Anyways, it doesn't matter. They head to the town in the Carolinas they're based in. And he like drops her off. Like, she like tells a story about like a haunted hitchhiker ghost man that haunts this path of road to like cover up why she almost hit him. But she ends up deciding to trust him, goes with her gut. They travel back. She makes like horror dolls and stuff, which is really cool. Is obsessed with horror movies. He's also obsessed with horror movies and loves that stuff. And so they drive back. Don't kiss, no numbers, no real names exchanged either completely. He says he's in sports. He doesn't say he's a hockey player in sports though. So they both end up on the dating app by the insistence of their friends. Lo and behold, they match. He knows it's her. She does not know it's him. He kind of drops hints in their chat that it's him, and then ends up at a hockey game with her friend Harper, book 2, and he hits on the wall at the glass. Like, he sees her in the stands with Harper, and him and Rhodes, actually both, bang on the glass, and like he's staring her down. And she's like, holy shit, that's the guy I drove home. Chef's Kiss spectacular. I loved this. This was just so fun. So goofy. They're such a delight. They're such a fun couple. I adore them. I just had a blast reading this, and then, like I said, I immediately dove into the next book, which was my first 2 reads of July. So, Carolina comments, content coming your way in this week's vlog. But yeah, that is everything I read in June. Let me know what you read and loved in June. Next month we'll be back to highs and lows again, because I should have an actual assortment of books to talk about. And yeah, let me know what you read and loved in June. If you don't want to do that, leave me a thunder emoji, because it is like lightning and thundering outside real good right now. And honestly, I just kind of want to open the window and read. The slump, I think the slump's over. Fingers crossed, y'all. I think fingers crossed the slump is over. But yeah, so let me know in the comments any of that stuff, and I will have links to all these books for you down there, as well as links to your friend anywhere on the internet, and I will talk to y'all in just a few days. Bye!
Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for.